Okay, we're delighted to be joined here today by our CEO expert, our international guest speaker and industry consultant, Mr. Roger Harrow. Thank you for joining us, Roger.
Nice to be here, Erin.
Roger, you specialize in helping businesses grow. Right now you're sitting in Dubai, one of the most rapidly growing destinations of the world, I should say. So we'd like to learn from you, what is your view on the current economic climate? And how do you feel that will impact on hotels in the Middle East, but in particularly in Dubai?
Well, it's got to have an impact. I've been coming here for many years, and I think Dubai industry, I've watched it grow and flourish, and I guess my advice has been much more about getting a quality of customer and looking after the bottom line. That's got to change in future. In my business, professional speaking, I and my colleagues are seeing conferences cancelled, we're seeing conferences downsized, we're seeing conferences postponed. That's got to have an effect on the hotel business. And indeed, in terms of the sort of people who come here, the private individuals who come here to hotels, they're either not spending their money or they don't have the disposable income they once had or they won't have in the near future. So there's got to be an impact, I believe. And therefore it's going to be down to hoteliers here in Dubai and throughout the Middle East to really be on their mettle, in my opinion.
So what's your advice to hoteliers who are operating in this exciting but uncertain marketplace right now?
Well, I guess I've said the first word, and that's proactive. I really do think selling has got to come to the fore. And you've perhaps been in this wonderful position here for a while of being able to be somewhat reactive in terms of guests coming to your hotels. I think the ones the hotels that are really going to win through here, the hoteliers that are going to really win through here, are the ones that are going to go out there and be proactive. Traditionally, when you hit an economic slowdown, it's the top end and the bottom end who are successful. It's the ones in the middle that are squeezed. And I think each and every hotelier here has got to decide which one of those two they are and then go for it. When I was speaking to hot hoteliers last night, I finished with a wonderful model. It's not developed by me, but it's a model called the Change House, yes. Which I just love, and I think some of the people who were there last night, from what I heard, enjoyed it as well. Basically, it's a house with 4 rooms, and the argument is that any organisation, any team, any person, at any moment in time, you're in one of these 4 rooms, and you can only move from room to room in a predetermined way. And the 4 rooms are firstly contentment, and that's, if you like, a little bit of complacency, a little bit of sometimes arrogance comes in because it's all going so well and it all seems so easy. Now, I would be the last to suggest that might be the case with some hoteliers in Dubai, but it's what you've got to be cautious about, because it means that you are a bit fat, dumb and happy. Where you go from there, and there's no choice, is into denial, and that's when there's lots of finger pointing, because of course it's somebody else's fault. It's not your fault.
Mind.
It's the economic slowdown, it's the industry, it's the sector, it's the clients, it's anybody but us. So then you have to, it's a bit like being an alcoholic. Half the battle is recognizing you are one. Once you do recognize you are one, where you go next then is to the next room, which is the room of confusion, because you're sort of half doing it the old way and you're half doing it the new way, and it's a bit confusing. I think for the employees in particular, it can be really difficult. And leadership is at a premium here. So again, I think hoteliers have really got to have their leadership skills honed up so everyone understands exactly where it is you're trying to get to and why you're getting there. But the room that you want to aim for is the room of renewal. And this is where you challenge everything in your business. You challenge everything in your hotel. You don't do anything just because that's the way you've always done it. You have a look at it, you turn it upside down and you say, does that make sense? If the answer is yes, that's fine, you carry on doing it. But if it doesn't, you change it, no matter how important it was in the past, how much of a sacred cow it was. And the other thing is, you're always raising the bar. Yeah, you might be a 7-star hotel, but you should be aiming to be an 8-star hotel. You should always be raising the bar, because you have to assume, particularly with all these rooms additional rooms that are going to come online in the next few years. In the middle of this slowdown, you've always got to assume the competitors are all getting better. And what I would say is that every single hotelier in the Gulf region, every single hotel in the Gulf region has got to target getting into that room of renewal. And actually the more important thing is staying there, because it's quite easy to then move back over again into this contentment room, because it's all very attractive,
And easy.
And you can sort of put your feet up, and it's So I would say that's probably the biggest thing of all that hoteliers need to do here. Work out how to get into that room of renewal, number one, and number two, work out how to stay there.
So Roger, can you tell us what does it take to get into this room of renewal and how do we manage to stay in it? Any stories?
Yeah, a couple of examples. I guess for me in the hotel business, trying to keep well away maybe from this area, but Banyan Tree, Banyan Tree for me is the most amazing hotel organisation. I find it pretty unusual to keep going back to a hotel, and every time you go, it's better than it was the time before. But that applies with Banyan Tree. They clearly work very, very hard at never letting what's the term? The grass grow under their feet. That's the term. Another little story for you, not in the hotel business, but when Toyota decided to set up their Lexus luxury car division, they did a lot of research and they came to the conclusion that as far as the car was concerned, the motor vehicle, they probably couldn't beat Mercedes-Benz, Jaguar and BMW. They had to assume in their planning that they could only make a vehicle that was as good. So they actually took the corporate strategic decision that the way they were going to beat the competition, the way they were going to differentiate themselves was all about the experience. And I don't mean just the experience of buying the car or sitting in the car or driving the car, but the whole experience of dealing with Lexus. And I had a great example of this the other day. A friend of mine, he'd been something of a BMW lover and he had a few BMWs, and he put his car in for a service, and as usual they did a free valet and it came back and the ashtray was missing. So he rang up the dealer and said, look, I've just got my car back and the ashtray is missing. And they said, don't worry, Mr. Taylor, we've got it here. Next time you're passing, call in and we'll let you have it. And he was a bit unhappy with that. So he telephoned the local Lexus dealer. And he said, look, if I had a Lexus, can I ask you a question? If I had a Lexus and it'd been in for a service and it came back with the ashtray missing, what would you do? And they said, why, Mr. Taylor, we'd deliver it to you. Why do you ask? So he told them. 2 hours later, the Lexus dealer delivered his BMW ashtray. Guess what car he's now driving? That's the level of service that companies in that renewal room give. It's the nth degree of detail. It's the tiniest detail. I was just relating a story to you just now, and this is literally from just a week ago. I was running a workshop for a group of chief executives, and I think I must have mentioned I was coming here and talking to hoteliers. And one of them said to me, he said, last year my wife and I really pushed the boat out. We went to Dubai, we stayed in one of the top hotels. He wouldn't tell me which one.
Of course.
One of the top hotels. He said, we spent squillions of pounds, he said, but so what? We had a fantastic time. The whole hotel experience was absolutely brilliant. He said, but I'm not talking about that. He said, because they blew it right at the end. In the last 2 minutes, right at the end. He said, I went to pay my bill, and it was the credit card was red hot after I paid it. But at that point, the guy behind reception literally threw the credit card at me and threw the bill at me and never once said thank you. And he then started talking to somebody else and he said, that blew it for me. My wife and I will never go to that hotel again because of their last 2 minutes. And I'm not telling anyone about how good it was the rest of the time. And it's that detail, Erin, isn't it? It's that detail. It's the finest, smallest detail that's going to make the difference in the future. Maybe in the past with hotels here, and indeed all kinds of businesses here, 80%, 85% was good enough. It's not going to be in the future. It's going to have to be 102%. That's the only way, I believe, hotels are really going to come out, not just surviving, but thriving, which is what you want to do. I think if you're really good at what you do, you're going to come out of this very, very successful.
And often it is only the risk takers.
Yeah, to some extent, it's the risk. It's the combination of the two for me. I think it's the left brain people and the right brain people. You've got to have both. So this attention to detail, perhaps, are the left brainers. But the creative bit, the risk takers, are the right brainers. And you've got to have the two, and you've got to have some sort of a balance there where one doesn't smother the other, but the two of them take the organisation forward. And part of that is creativity. I mean, this is I'll be here talking all day if I'm not careful.
Okay.
But what doesn't happen anymore in a lot of places, a lot of organisations, a lot of businesses, is creativity. And I see a lot around here, but it can really get pushed down very quickly. I was talking to a girl the other day. She's doing a fine art degree at Oxford, and she was telling me in that course, there is nothing about creativity. And that really...
A fine art degree.
A fine art degree, and they never ever talk about or at all anything to do with creativity. And that really worries me, because it's creativity and risk-taking. That's what makes the difference.
Let's hope there's lots of creative risk takers watching us.
I'm sure there are.